Good evening, everybody. Right, quickly, I was going to do it a different way, but I'm going to do it the classic way tonight. Right, we have a couple of guests coming on tonight. Obviously, bring them on in a minute. They can introduce themselves. Doing some great things. Hopefully, please check out their stuff. Go and subscribe. And keep an eye out because these people are going to be coming on doing some very, very good things. So, without further ado, our first guest tonight. Uh, Real Brit Real Talk. Hello. Good evening. If you'd
Hello,
like to
guys.
introduce yourselves and just tell everybody what you do.
Well, thank you for having me. My name's Andy. I'm known on TikTok as Real Brit Real Talk. Basically, I was just a working man like everyone else, and got very frustrated of our country and the way it's being run. Loads of different subjects, and also not just being told about other countries and what I should think about other countries. So, being a curious man, I started TikTok and started doing lives and asking people, and people seem to like it. We talk about everything. There's not a subject that I'm not willing to talk about. My knowledge of everything is growing, and at the moment, there's a massive frustration of our taxes and why we pay taxes and things like that. So, yeah, I was asked to come on here, which I'm very grateful for, and because I've been having conversations about it lately, and you guys seem to be the guys that know a lot about this. So if my audience can learn something from you, and your audience can learn something from my content, it's a good thing we link up. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Well, as much as most of us would like to admit it, many of us was doing this before most people even realised this was a problem, kind of thing. I mean, when we started, because we're all me, Jeremy, and Gary from Constitution Movement Worldwide. We deal with the Constitution, common law, and well, I deal with tort law and other bits, but it's mainly common law and our Constitution. When we started, nobody actually knew what our Constitution was. They thought it was a medieval thing. If you talked about common law, people didn't even have a clue what that was. Yeah, and then it's sort of like
Something out of Robin Hood.
basically, yeah, basically. Right, I'm going to bring on our next guest now. This is Jordan from GBG.
Hi
Jordan,
guys, how
hello.
you doing?
If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Jordan. I'm from Great British Guardians. It's a group of just regular working class people that are sick to death of the way the country's going, all clubbed together to try and help make some positive changes and highlight some stuff that the mainstream media won't be doing. Through our efforts, we've managed to link up with multiple people from all over different parts of the country, different networks, different sort of platforms that they're on. I mean, I've just started a new podcast as well called Mind Over Mainstream with 3 other guys that I've met through TikTok as well. And we're just exposing all the corruption, all the tyranny, what the government are getting away with, and that we're just sort of letting happen. If anything, being complicit in by just not doing anything about it. And one
I'd
sort
just
of
like to interject. We're not TikTok influencers. We are TikTok awakeners. All right?
yeah, that's
Don't
it. Yeah,
get
I mean,
mixed up with the clowns.
yeah, I'm not one of these guys that wants hundreds of thousands of followers and everything and wants the limelight. I just want to get the truth out there. You know, I've had multiple account bans. I seem to get followers back very quickly to the point where I can go live again, and then I get banned very quickly again. But it's not very well liked out there on any social media platform at the moment, so it's hard to get your voice across.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. We have massive problems trying to sort of do what we're not so much in the beginning, but then it got to a point where it's like myself and Gary, we are now permanently banned on most social media sites now.
Yeah.
It's because what we say, and it's not like we say anything that's wrong. We're showing you their documents, their wording, and the law that they're breaching. It's I don't see what the problem is with that. I mean, it's actually a duty of every single one of us to actually highlight any crime to the potential victim. So treason is a crime that affects all of us. So therefore, we have a duty to tell everybody.
Yeah.
That is it by law, basically. If we, like
Absolutely.
you said, if we don't, then we are complicit because silence is consent, basically. So you're consenting to the crimes. So everybody needs to be speaking out about this.
What people are most worried about, I find, is we're in this system now where they feel like if they speak up, they lose everything. They lose their house, their car. You know, they just feel trapped now. So that's why people keep stum,
Yep.
because they're worried about losing everything.
But they're
the
going to
thing
lose it all anyway.
This is the thing. When they say you're going to own nothing and be happy, they actually mean it. It's down in their documents. Their documents like the health regulations, pandemic treaty. There's a number of WHO documents, CDC, and UN documents to be exact, that actually states quite clearly they're going to take everything away from us. Even the right to dignity will be taken from us.
This is what I keep saying to people: if you do nothing, you won't have anything to fight for at the end anyway.
Exactly.
But we were told this in many films, Braveheart. You know what I mean? The amount of TikToks I see now with that speech in the background is unbelievable. People want to be free of this system, but they are terrified to stand.
See, that's the thing. What people need to get their heads around. You shouldn't want to be free of the system that we have that governs us. What we need to be free of is the corruption that has basically spoilt that system and turned that system against us. It's like I think you were saying earlier, Jordan. It's like the government works for us. So every MP in Parliament is actually an employee of us due to our symbiotic relationship with the Crown. They need to. It's the Constitution that actually binds them. That's why they deny it so much, because it's the rules they have to govern by. And they don't want to govern by the rules that protect us. They want to be like we're seeing now. Me and Gary, you've said it enough times. It used to be that they was in the public and we was private. It's been switched. What Parliament seems to do now is in the private, and when everything we do is now in the public for everyone to see. It shouldn't be that way. We are private people. I don't like using the word citizens, because if you get get an Oxford Dictionary of Law. If you're going to start dealing with common law and constitution, start reading the wording, because we don't use Black's Law Dictionary. In England and Wales, you use the Oxford Dictionary of Law. It's not the same as the Oxford Dictionary. It is a dictionary of basically lawful and legal wording and their meanings. And you need to get to grips with that, because a lot of what you say, whether it be in a school situation, a court situation, or in a police station, they are going to be using the legal definitions. So you need to understand the legal definition so you understand what you're actually saying. That's one of the biggest kind of hurdles you have to get across. You have to understand who you are and what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we got to find a system to get this to the masses, like a way, like a course or tutorials, the way that people can ask us. That's why I love, social media has got its bad side, but it also has got a very good side of reaching the masses very, very quickly with information. And if you get the right people, the right time on the right platform, it can be golden. But there's the other side of the coin. It can also, crush you in a heartbeat. Yeah,
unfortunately. I mean, I personally, I think there is many parables that we're facing now that's in par with the Levelers movement. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Levelers movement. It's basically back in they sort of retook the printing press. So there was a lot of propaganda that was being put out by the Crown and certain authorities. So then the people started being their own press. And that's what we have to start doing now. We have to start being our own press, rather than relying on government-owned or BlackRock-owned institutions that are just there not to tell us the truth. We have to be our own press. So it's each and every man and woman needs to understand that we all have a duty to make sure that we all are informed, because a lot of what we do is based on informed consent, although government doesn't seem to like the idea of it having to be informed consent. That's a fact of law. So we actually have to start, really, like you say, getting together. We'll start propping each other up, start sort of publicising each other, building a trusted sort of network of people that do actually put out the truth. That's the problem as well, because there is some people that are in it for themselves, some people are not. But it's like we've seen over the years. Usually, it's like people that mean to will float to the top. They always do, because you can't beat a just cause.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I agree. Well, me and Jordan that's how we met, through GBG. And we both had an interest in social media, and we've done a podcast together before. We're just about to sit down and do it again. And we've got other podcasts. Like I say, Danny Roscoe, he's getting involved now. We've got loads of people. It's just getting these people together, start banging out the content, and use our groups to push each other's content out there, and we will wake people up with knowledge, and as long as it's factual and we can prove what we're saying. Like, I've got a podcast coming up with a guy called Truth and Rights. He's a Jamaican guy that came to Britain, looked around at our system and thought, hang on a minute, now his daughter has a passport but she doesn't have a British birth certificate. He didn't register her birth, but he used the British legislation and certain laws and that to go get a passport. So
you can do it. You can get a passport off a notification of live birth.
Yeah.
That's where everything is based on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on the podcast, and like, he's very knowledgeable. But my point being, if a Jamaican man can come over to this country and use our laws against our system, we should have this knowledge. You know,
well, this is the thing. Jamaica has very basically, so almost common law jurisdictions are the same. The only thing you'll find the differences between, for instance, Jamaica, Australia, America, and us is cultural differences within that common law, and that's basically rulings from juries. Yeah. That's the only slight difference. You'll just see some differences in case law, but all common law is the same basis. So it's very easy. It's just no loss, no harm. So as long as your actions create no loss. As long as your actions create no harm, and as long people say fraud, but the correct terminology is not to be deceptive in your undertakings, which is the fraud part of our common law. But as long as you are applicable to that, I mean, a lot of people seem to think that under common law and under rights and freedom is you can do whatever you want. It's not. Technically speaking, this is what a lot of people got to grasp. To be truly free under common law and to have your common law rights, it's the right to say no. So you have the right to refuse. So it's not about so much about doing whatever you want. It's about not doing that which you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Well,
like with the conversation we had before, like with not consenting to a treasonous government, stuff like that. This is what most of it is based on. Our right to go, no, I'm not doing that. Don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So let's say, like, because I know there's 6,000 people in Plymouth at the moment stop paying their council taxes. They're just withholding it.
Yep.
And like, people want to know how to step forward with these steps to start doing it the legal way, because they don't want to, like I said, they don't want to lose everything. So
it's that word again. Legal.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, if you do it the legal way, you're literally you're them going into their system under your legal name.
Well, when I say legal, I mean, like, you know, a way of
lawfully.
Yeah, lawfully. That's the word. Thank you, Jordan.
With the most strong lawful avenue to withhold or withdraw any consent or any form of funding from the government is under diffidatio, which is clause 61 of the Magna Carta of 1215. That is the basis for all non-compliance and all non-payment.
Yeah. And of course, you've got to ask them where you're liable. That's all. That I can tell you how I did it because I've just sold my house and everything. I don't pay the mortgage for 3 years, and I've got proof of all of this. I can prove the lot. I just put it on the market for sale, and then I couldn't take it off me either because I was doing everything that I could to sell that house. I wasn't being deceitful in my undertakings like Nathan's saying. I was saying, look, what else do you want me to do? I cannot afford the mortgage anymore. I've lost my job, so I'm doing the next best thing. I've put my house on the market. It's been sold. When it's sold, you will get your money. And I also understand that every month that goes by, if my mortgage is, say, £400, example, that £400 goes on the end when the house is sold. And if there's 10 months I haven't paid, that's £4,000 extra. Comes off my profits because I owe it in back dated.
Basically, what Gary's talking about is contract law, because under contract law, which a lot of what we do in our life is based on contracts. Most things is based on contracts. So commerce, speaking. What Gary's talking about is being honourable to a contract. If there is a contract, you can't just say no under law. You've got to be honourable. So you can't just ignore it, like people say, well, I'm going to ignore my bills. You can't ignore, because then you are in default. You are then in dishonour. So basically, the liability then comes on you fourfold.
Yeah,
what you have to do
refusal, isn't it?
exactly.
If you're showing willing and you're doing everything you possibly can within your power to put that what you've undertook right, in other words, you've signed a contract, now you can't uphold that contract, so you are now selling your house because you've got no other option. As long as that house and there's a billboard outside your house and you understand that, you know, if that's on the market for 10 months, that's an extra $4,000 coming off your profits, and you tell them all this and you understand all that. There was with me anyway. There's more than happy to say, well, as long as you understand all that, well, leave it as it is. And they never took me to court. They never sent bailiffs round to try and take my house off me, because I'd have took them to the cleaners if they hadn't done, because I'd done everything correct.
This thing, a lot of people are scared because you're going to lose everything. You are going to lose everything because, literally, myself and Gary on this YouTube page, we've done lives about the documents that states quite clearly that you're going to lose your house because they're going to make everybody who owns a house go to carbon net zero. That means everybody's looking at roughly about at least £15,000 to bring their house up to code. Most people can't afford that, so you're going to lose your house because it'll be done under a compulsory purchase order. They intend to centralise everything. And when I say everything, that means housing, food, water, minerals, everything. Yeah. This is basically, in the past, many civilisations have tried taking over the world by force, by a military force. It never works because the people always rise up and there's more of us than there are them. So they're doing it in a very clever manner now. They're doing it with consent, which is something that I was saying before. Most people really do not understand the power of consent. They don't.
Yeah, and the thing with that is they're drip feeding us misery at the moment, and we're just sort of taking it on the chin. And for every little thing they do that makes life more uncomfortable for us, that we just take on the chin and do nothing about, it becomes another thing they've got away with.
Yeah, silence is consent. So if you do not speak up or act on it, then you are consenting to it. By your willful action.
Tacit agreement, isn't it? If you don't respond to a contract offer or of some sort.
Yes, tacit agreement. So you agree by not complying. Well, not addressing the situation. Basically, it comes back to contract law. I mean, there's a very ancient analogy of contract law, and it goes back to a very ancient times. I think so. For instance, it's offer and reciprocation in a contract. So, for instance, back in the medieval one, it's like if I offer to cut your head off, you don't just say no, thank you, you're not going to do that. You go, okay, well, you put the offer on the table to cut my head off. Well, I'm going to put on the table, how about if you attempt to cut my head off, I'm going to run you through with my sword. So it's offer, counter offer. And you do that till both parties agree on what's going to happen. And that is actually because it was based on the old dueling thing, that both parties consent to a duel. That's why, technically speaking, we still have trial by combat in our laws. So when you go to court, technically speaking, by law, you can still do trial by combat.
I'm coming.
But this is the thing we have. You can choose a champion and everything. We used to have it. This is the thing. All that's happened is...
I'd hate to see what kind of biological super soldier the government have been hiding that they put up against you if you try trial by combat.
Yeah,
probably have 6 arms and you know.
See, but then again, this is the thing though. But trial by combat can be a game of chess. It depends on which battlefield you choose.
All right, I want octagon, 3 5-minute rounds, bare knuckles with Richie Sunak.
Yeah, and I want eye gouging allowed.
No rules.
No holds barred. But this is the thing. This is what this is where people have got to start with now. Because we are the law, as our constitution states and law states. We are the law. That's why we have a jury. Because it's a jury of your peers, which is a court du jour, not because there's 2 forms of jury trials. So it's not a jury trial; it's a trial by jury. That's 2 different things. A lot of people have got to get that. But this is why we have a jury, because you by law, you could not be found guilty until 12 of your peers find you so. An arbitrary opinion of a judge does not count. And this is the thing, but this is going back to our laws, and this is the thing. They don't want us to do that because then they can't do all the commerce that they do. So they can't do all the fines, they can't do things, because law quite clearly states until you're found guilty, you can't be fined. And only a court can fine you. And that has to be a court of law, which is a court of record. So magistrates is shit out there. I'm sorry, but they're not a court of record. Magistrates is Well, a lot of people don't notice this. As I said, once you get into like the legal wording and stuff like that, most people won't notice it. But when you see magistrates, there's an apostrophe at the end. That usually denotes something missing, because it's a magistrate's administrative court. But they don't want you to know that they're actually administrating your trust, because each and every one of us, much as people say, "Oh, freeman on land," it's not freeman land. It's the legal, the natural and artificial persons. And I'll give you a case of this. If everyone calls you freeman on land, quote Sir Blackstone, basically. William Blackstone wrote about the artificial and the natural persons, and how the artificial persons is to be used in contracts in commerce. And he is literally one of the godfathers of law. So if he's talking about the artificial persons and the natural persons, i.e. the legal fiction and the living man, does that make him a freeman of land? Because I'm quite sure he wasn't. But he spoke about it as a fact in law. And it is a fact in law. The same as accessory KV trust is a fact in law.
Yeah.
They just don't want you to know what they're doing, because they are literally trading your sweat equity, basically. And this is the whole point. It is fraud.
And this is the thing, the people, I've tried, I know Andy's tried, we've tried, but they're not there yet. Do you know what I mean? They're barely coming around to the idea that, okay, this war in Ukraine is some big money embezzlement scheme. Do you know what I mean? They're sort of down here, and we're like, come on, guys, catch up. We want the whole world to wake up and know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So we need to find a way to ease people from that into what's going on, because we're looking down the shotgun barrel of the World Health Organization's pandemic preparedness treaty in May. And I worry that when that comes into play, the use of military force and everything is just gonna completely change the battleground.
Well, you mentioned the pandemic treaty. That's actually one part of two treaties that actually coincide with each other. It's again another symbiotic relationship. The other one, which is the precursor, is myself and Gary started going through the document on this channel. Actually, it's the amendments to the International Health Regulations of 2015, which was signed in secret back in November by 194 countries. And this is where they state quite clearly that they can remove. They even state in there that the right to dignity will be removed. Now, if people understand what the right to dignity means, then you'll understand how seriously
they want. Yeah, they can do whatever they want to you.
Lawless.
Exactly. It means complete removal of any rights. And this is why people have got to understand that
just remember, though,
we have to uphold our rights.
When they remove our rights, they also remove their own rights. Okay? Whatever they predict on us goes straight back to them. If they want to play a no rules game, I'm up for that. Simple as that. If you want to make the game no rules, then bring it. Because
but this is the thing. I mean, if we don't get to some sort of point where we're being taken seriously as the people of this country by our government before then I'm a little bit worried that it's going to sort of head towards revolution before we can start a rebellion. Do you know what I mean? And do it properly. That's what worries me. That's what concerns me, is because there's growing unrest. There's a lot of division, a lot of hatred towards certain ethnic groups and stuff going around, and it's a boiling pot. And it's going to bubble over.
But this is the thing. We are closer to civil unrest than we are rebellion or revolution. And civil unrest is something that we seriously have to avoid unless we do it. That's why you go under 61, because look, it's basically civil unrest, but it's a lawful, organised civil unrest. But this is what people don't get. They can deal with violence because they've got everything they need to deal with violence. But if you do it in a lawful manner, they can't deal with that because there is no recourse. Because to do so would improve their guilt of unlawfulness in its very action. That's why a lot of times, myself and Gary and Jeremy, we don't really get bothered by the government in a lot of what we do, because we go by law. And if they try and attack us, because they have done in the past, I mean, we've lost jobs, houses, things like that, all of us have. But it gets to the point when you have enough knowledge and you do it in a certain way that for them to act against you, it just proves their guilt, it just proves their treason. So, and this is what you have to reference. This is where everyone has to realise. Eventually, we're all going to have to gather, and we're all going to have to be, because that's what you do. In times of treason, and this is the thing. I just want to point out, because a lot of people still today are referencing the Human Rights Act. Okay, now the Human Rights Act, it was created by the UN, United Nations, the very people that are trying to sexualize our children. So if you're using that document, you are actually consenting to what the UN are doing. Okay, you have no human rights. If you read the Human Rights Declaration, in the first bit of writing, it's called preamble. It states in the preamble that all these rights are only to be taken into consideration. Now, do you want your rights to be upheld, or do you just want them to be taken into consideration?
I want them upheld.
Exactly. That's why we have a thing called unalienable rights.
Yeah.
Or if it is, the American term is inalienable, but the correct English term is unalienable. You cannot be alienated from your right. To do so is treason. And
I've used them many times.
Yeah.
So why do we have to have a driving license then? I mean,
you don't.
We don't.
You don't. You have a driving license. 2 seconds.
It's a fraud against the
unalienable
people.
rights. Yeah, I mean, you've got unalienable rights to travel unhindered and impeded.
Yeah, you can actually decontract that with DVLA so that you're no longer. The only thing is they've got over you is the fact that you've contracted with them by signing your license. Now, once you decontract with DVLA, they have absolutely no rights over you whatsoever, especially when using your inalienable right to travel any of the Kings or Queens highways unabated or untaxed.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
And nobody
you have the right to
noticed.
travel Kings Road unimpeded without unlawful tax.
Unlawful tax, yeah. But
why
it's not,
is this?
it's not particularly a difficult avenue to go down. You just got to have the right sort of presentation for your new contract that you're proposing, which in effect deletes their contract, and then it sort of remits at the point at the end that they are now under your contract of common law, which is the same for everyone else. Because
but basically, you just don't enter into the contracts. If you want to drive without a license, I mean, a lot of people sort of laugh at this, but the fact is, in law, you don't have to. If you, for instance, apply for a driving license, you are applying to act in commerce, so you will be driving as a man acting in commerce. You actually travel. You have the right to travel from A to B on the King's Road without unlawful tax or impedance.
Yeah.
So that you have a right to get to A to B to move your own personal goods and stuff like that. It's only when you're acting in commerce that you go into the realms of legal. Therefore, you need a contract, you need a license. So all a license is basically the Crown giving you the ability to do something you would otherwise be able to do in law anyway. It's just you've got special permission. That doesn't mean you have to prove you have the right.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, if I may. So let's say I've got a card. I've wrote on this card, under such and such act, I am allowed to travel this land, blah, blah, blah. And I write it down. And I start driving around without a license. I get pulled over and I hand this to the policeman. What's going to happen to me?
Well, for a start, this is what we've been trying to do. I mean, I've even been in the High Court of Appeal and that lot to address constables' training, to which constables are now is now being addressed about the training. Constables are not actually trained; they're trained in a little bit of the Criminal Law Act. It's mostly legislation. So constables are just not aware of your rights. Even though they attest under common law, none of them actually really know common law. I mean, you've still got a lot of constables that, you probably will, because that's not because you don't have that right in law, it's the ignorance of the constable.
Yeah.
And that's what people got to understand. Just because the constable's ignorant and he arrests you doesn't mean that your right does not stand. So basically what you do is there's a maximum law. He who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. It's a maximum law. So if you get arrested by that constable, you've got to go all the way to court, and you've got to go all the way and fight as long as you have to. Go, no, I have this right, I have this right, I have this right. If you just give up, go, oh, well, I got arrested, it doesn't happen, then you've given up by default. So you've just given up your right. This is what people, this is consent. This is what I said. A lot of people don't understand how powerful consent is. And you can do that by just not doing something. I mean, it's like their very wording, for instance. I mean, I've been saying this for years, but it's like when a constable reads your rights in the last bit, do you understand? This is where, because in our constitution and our laws, we actually have Latin, French, and English. This is where we see some of the French part of our laws, because understand means actually to stand under. So a constable makes a statement
what you're
about
saying.
Exactly, you comprehend. You do not understand.
I comprehend what you're saying, but I do not stand under your authority.
I mean,
I told my son that as well.
That's what I mean. So you really, if you get stopped with a constable, you have to address straight away the position of you of the constable. So is the constable acting as under his, I'd say, commercial right, i.e. his legal right to police acts and statutes, or is he actually upholding, which he does first and foremost, his attestation under common law? Because his ability to basically push acts and statute on you, that's a secondary ability of a constable. It's not that of a thing. His first one should be your common law unalienable rights. So you've got to start establish. So, for instance, when a constable talks to you, like for instance that, he makes basically, a constable will make a statement, and if you agree to it, then you are now liable for what the constable has just said. So you have to then address that with the constable every step of the way. Document it, everything. This is the problem. Ignorance is what's give them bliss, because they're ignorant, we're ignorant, therefore we allow it. And this is where we have to take back the printing presses, and we have to start educating ourselves again, because our education system is absolutely abhorrent. I mean, before, technically speaking, the state education system, everybody knew about their rights because it was basically taught by your parents, and everything you did was about your rights.
Yeah.
And we've got to get back to that.
Talking about education, because I mean, obviously we've got the viewers watching or the listeners listening, and they're wondering what the hell's going on, and they're learning all this new stuff, and they're like, wow. We're actually thinking about doing that. We're thinking about combining forces, combining knowledge, building something comprehensive. Yeah, building something comprehensive to help people to, basically live by common law, to move forward with their lives out of the system of commerce that we're all living under, that we're not even aware of as a majority rule.
There's going to be some sacrifices, though, people.
That is the key. Difficult. People won't sacrifice.
Yeah, it's going to be sacrifice. Difficult. But people got to understand, like, if you're like me and you've got nothing to lose, then what have you got to lose? Just do it. I mean, I've got absolutely nothing left to lose. They've taken a lot from me. I haven't even got my health. I haven't even got my health anymore. I mean, I used to be a martial arts instructor, and now I'm verging on 20 stone because I can't go and run and exercise and stuff anymore since I took my dose of the medicine. My lung capacity is at about 35% what it used to be. So I struggle with, I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like, I've got nothing left to lose. I haven't even got my health. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take on the fight. So if you're in that position and you're able to take on the fight, then I suggest that you do that and pay attention.
That's the problem. The law states we all have to take up the fight. You don't get to say no, because it is your lawful duty to uphold the laws in your communities. So we all have to act. We don't have a choice. Everybody wants Sadiq Khan. It's like I said, in our case, we have Keir Starmer, Sadiq Khan, Kate Green, Harab. There's about 5 or 6 MPs. We actually had the police back our charges of sedition, treason, malfeasance. And by the way, at common law, malfeasance still holds life in prison, or a fine, or both. But we done it all under common law and our constitution. And the Metropolitan Police actually backed our charges. As you see at the end of the video, if you watch our video, the superintendent, the chief superintendent, actually sits there and says, no, all these laws are enforced. So when people say Magna Carta is not enforced, yes, it is. I can prove this, and I have done in court. You can prove this by one statement, okay? Now, Maggie Thatcher said it, John Major did, Jack Straw said it, a number of prime ministers said the same thing. We are not only governed by consent, but we are policed by consent. Okay, and if you get Halsbury's Laws of England is it's basically it's the primary source basically for laws in England and Wales. So every single law, act and statute will be in that book. Halsbury's Laws of England states quite clearly, Magna Carta, and that's 1215, is as binding on the Crown today as the day it was sealed in Runnymede. Now, this proves 1215 is the one in force, and 1297 was largely repealed because it's illegal. That's why there's only 4 statutes of 1297 Magna Carta on the statute books, because there are only 4 statutes that are technically legal, because nothing can be contrary, and you can't reissue Magna Carta 1215. The reason why Magna Carta is in force by that very statement is because after Magna Carta was sealed in Runnymede, the King threw the English seal in the Thames. Magna Carta 1215 was the only Magna Carta to be sealed in Runnymede. No other Magna Carta was ever sealed in Runnymede or ever sealed.
Yeah.
So just go with the facts. That's why I don't like
and people just think, oh, the government have made this law and the government made that law, and they can't just make laws. The laws are like they're created by the consent. People have to agree with it, so they can't just enforce, put something down on you and enforce it and change your life in big ways. Not lawfully.
This is where the Act of Settlement comes in, which it allows basically the well, basically, it's what used to be the British East India Tea Company to actually govern us. It's now
Yes.
labelled as the UK Government Limited. But basically, we go to Bill of Rights on this. We actually, I mean, our right to protest, it actually comes before, it is. They don't have the right, as many people think, to create laws. They don't. Parliament actually has the right to create acts and statutes. So they have the right to create legislation. And as you said, that is can only be given, like House Resource of England again says, acts and statutes can only be given the force of law by the consent of the governed. So you have to consent to be governed by these people for their policy, their rules to actually be able to be given the force of law against you. So if you haven't consented to these people to govern you, what they do has no action against you. And I know a lot of people go, yes, it does. That's only because they'll either do it by force or they do it with your ignorance. But the truth in law is, it's only done by consent.
Well, as soon as you want to go on the electoral register, you're giving consent.
Yeah, well,
That's where the problem lies.
That's the thing.
People worry about going to prison, but the way I see it, right, if you've got like 6,000 people in Plymouth, right, and then you say you get 6,000 in Newcastle, Liverpool, Middlesbrough, then you come down South London, blah blah blah, and each city, they cannot imprison that amount of people. Something has to buckle, and it will have to be them, because if the more people stand together and go, no, we're not paying into this system no more, we'll find our own way, and we start breaking down our communities and helping each other, like that's the only way we're ever going to beat this craziness.
Yeah, we've been shouting it from the rooftops.
I mean, we've been doing this for quite some years now, and it's like we've seen some massive protests in London. For instance, there's been a number of times when there's been 1 million people and up in London. And to give some context, 1 million people outnumbers the police, the judiciary, and our army.
Yeah. All together.
Half a million people does that pretty much.
Yeah, because you've got roughly what is it, about 80,000 police, about the same amount in the army, the judiciary. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, what we're seeing now, and we are seeing it, the government have actually created legislation just before, well, a bit before, and they sort of upgraded it during the pandemic so they can basically deputise security guards. And this is the problem. This is the main problem we face, because the legislation states they can take security guards and arm them and put them to action against any civil uprising. And this is why you've got to be very careful about saying you're a civilian or you're a citizen. I'm not a civilian, I'm not a citizen. I'm a sovereign.
If you look
man.
on these TikTok videos, who the security guards are, they're not British citizens.
No.
Yeah, just about saying. In my mind, I'm like, where are you going to get an army of private security guards?
Rather.
Oh, exactly. I wonder who's coming over on the boats.
I mean, technically speaking, they have to do it like this because it has to be an army of private citizens to go against private citizens. And this is what people need to realise. We need to get our own army, and that's what you do under Clause 61. Under Clause 61, you fill out your 3 forms, you send them off, and then you're meant to gather with everybody else in one place, and you become the Baron's army. So we actually become an army. And then we're to act. So once we all gather and we're all in one place, the Barons then come, the Barons instructors go, right, this group here, you're going to go and take Windsor Castle. This group here, you're going to go and take this bit of land. You're going to do this. And we are to, like the government are doing to us. Exactly. But like the government are doing to us, we are we're meant to go and take their belongings and their homes.
This is what I'm talking about, Andy. This is what
turfed out their homes.
This is the thing. At the moment, you've got maybe 30-40% of the country awake to there's something going on here. It's not good. It's not great. A lot of them are just angry, and they want to direct their anger somewhere, you know. And this is the problem, because it's become such a boiling pot. There's obvious division being forced down our throats with the Free Palestine marches walking freely through London, but the British people can't celebrate their country. You know, it's obvious what's happening, and it's so forced and so blatant. Yeah, I mean, we can see it a mile off, but so many people are falling into the divide and into the division that they're just angry about one of the distractions that we're being fed, you know. And what we want to do is try and bring their attention over to, actually, guys, if you want that to stop, if you want that to stop, if you want that to stop, it's all part of this. You need to be part of this movement. You need to send off these 3 forms, and you need to go there and assemble as part of the Baron's army, and we need to get the word out there for that, because that's something that people are not aware of.
I mean, take the action we did, that sort of brought you to us, really, sort of that you see that we did in the Fabian Society arrest. We arrested 5 MPs. This is where people really have to understand the true power. There was actually 8 of us who did that. There was only 8 of us. And there was 2 of us that actually worked on the paperwork, and we actually got the police to back a treason case against the MPs. And we can widen that to other MPs. So imagine now, and the only reason why that is lacking because it needs backing from the people. So people actually have to put their name to it and say, I stand with this, I want these people prosecuted. If you don't, you're consenting to whatever they do because you're going to go and vote and consent to them. But this is the thing, 8 people did that. Now imagine what we could do if we had 100,000 people.
You can
I just interject, Dave, for two minutes?
Yeah.
Well, people keep saying about 61. We've had the solution since 2014. Now, with 61, once you've done your 3 parts, it tells you that you can withhold your taxes lawfully and peacefully, and there's no redress for doing so. It gives you a lot of things because you cannot, by law, under the Constitution in 61, you cannot fund tyranny and corruption. Now, we've been telling you that for 10 years. We've been telling the people for 10 years that is the solution, and nobody's listened. Now, look on the internet now, and what is everybody talking about? The international law from the UN, which states exactly the same as what you can do under Article 61. So who's been right all along? Because under the UN, you're not supposed to fund tyranny. You're supposed to withhold your taxes the same. Any country who's under tyranny is supposed to do it. Now, 61, which we've been pushing for 10 years now, it gives you those rights, has done all along. And everybody's going, no, it won't work. But all of a sudden, they're talking about the UN gives you the same opportunities, and everybody wants to jump and back that. To me, why would you want to back something that's international when you've got something that's in your constitution that gives you the same rights and is more powerful? I just don't get it.
Well, the UN Declaration of Human Rights is void anyway when it comes to our laws because no foreign prince or prelate, no foreign body can have any say in our laws or our governance. So the UN can get to fuck basically. They have no say in our lives. It's only when you consent. And like you say, Gary, in the Human Rights Act itself, in the Human Rights Declaration, it states quite clearly, when faced with treason or tyranny, you are to rebel. So why is it that people will go with the Human Rights Act and then tell us we're idiots because we are rebelling? By law, you have to. I mean, and it's even referenced in the Human Rights Act because all the Human Rights Act is your unalienable rights dictated legally.
Yeah.
It's just a shadow. It's a mirror image. Basically, they've tricked you to go with a document that means nothing rather than sticking with the laws that have been cemented for thousands of years.
And this is what I wanted to tell you, Andy. These guys are legit. I've watched the video of them going and arresting Sadiq Khan. You do realise that Sadiq Khan has got charges hanging over his head officially because of these guys. They went in and arrested him in the middle of a
great sheriff for you, man.
Mate, honestly, watch the video afterwards. I'll send you a link in a minute, but I'm telling you now, honestly, these guys went in, brazen as you like, about 8 of them and just arrested Sadiq Khan in the middle of a meeting, or at the start of a meeting, just as it was about to start.
Yeah. And the good thing about all that, Andy, was they said, we're doing you for trespassing. He was going, no, you're not. We all got our phones and we said, look, we've booked these tickets lawfully online and you've accepted the money. We're here, we've been invited here.
That's it.
And it's not just that. Where we was actually there to, even though it was private property, where we was actually there to actually do an arrest. That's the reason why we bought the tickets, because it gives us the legal right to be on the property to do the lawful action of arrest. And this is what people got to start to get to understand. It's same as with the police. Your action can be completely levelled if you do not go by due process. So you have to make sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, do it correctly. If you do it correctly, like because nobody thought that we'd ever pull it off, but we did, and we actually got the police to back it.
This is where we've been hitting a wall as the next generation of the younger lot, not educated, not knowing enough about it, hearing whispers, seeing videos, the odd rumour, and some of us are genuinely interested and want to take this further, and want to make it a real movement and want to support what you guys have been doing. Because you've been at it for 10 years. We want to sort of come in and go,
more than that.
The next generation, let us get the next generation involved. Let us get as many people as possible behind this. And
Exactly.
then hopefully more will
I say
follow.
in my lives all the time, like when you start going down rabbit holes and you start realizing what's going on, there's a range of emotions you're going to go through.
Yeah.
And some people can't handle that and just shut down and go back to their 9 to 5s and pray everything's going to be rosy. That's the kind of attitude that is going to fail this country. We need people now just to have a bit of get up and go and start having a bit of self-pride and know these laws, move forward, and honestly, each step you take, it will bring back that pride and that get up and go and that bit of them for the next fight. And the more people that join, the more people you look around and you're all united, this country could be great again, and we could show an example to the rest of the world. The people have the power.
But it's
Yeah,
exactly the same. What we see is a lot of people get caught in the loophole because what you're describing there, especially when you start to realise how you've been lied to, it's a loss. Your whole reality is lost. So you, technically speaking, you go through the stages of grief. You go through the 7 stages of grief. So first one is you get angry, then it's denial. Then you go through them stages. All of us will do that. If you can go into this understanding that you will actually have to go through them stages of grief, then you'll be a lot more prepared for what you actually do and how you work within that.
See,
But you can't come out with a smile on your face like I do. People say to me, how can you do your lives, and you know, you have 4 hours of people barraging you with negativity? Because I know that they're on this path themselves. I know that anger. I've been there with that frustration and that anger. So when they come on my lives and they're not shouting at me, they're not screaming at me, but I'm that person they can direct it to at that time.
Exactly.
And I always try and end my lives by saying, look, if everyone that came onto this panel today, if you directed that passion and that focus to all our common enemies, no matter who you are in this country, if we can all focus that passion and just forget all the other little bits and bobs for now and just focus all that passion and anger to the people that really deserve it, that are sitting on multi-trillions of pounds of our money, then honestly, we could turn things around. But you've got to focus that frustration and anger, otherwise we're going nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's the main thing, focus. That's what a lot of people don't have. I mean, we all have, like I said, as me and Gary said many times, what we're stating, like i.e. Magna Carta, that was basically the establishment of the world's basically first form of rights, really established. And we've had to re-establish, just like the peasants revolted thing. We've had to keep re-establishing these. We are now seeing a situation where we have to re-establish our rights and our position, and re-establish that of the Crown and Parliament. It's like, for instance, a lot of people will put down Article 61, but you're quite happy to live by the principles that 61 gave us, i.e. nobody is above the law. That's where it comes from. 61, in fact, our army, their whole oath is based on Clause 61, protecting the realm. So is Americans.
This is what I've been saying privately to you, Andy, is that there's going to be a great reset one way or the other. It's just which way is it going to go? Is it going to go their way? And we're going to end up living in pens like animals in a zoo, or is it going to go our way where we completely take the chains off and start again?
If we can educate the people, Andy, to the real common law and your real inalienable rights, not this Human Rights Act shit and maritime law. If we can educate everybody on the real common law and the real inalienable rights, you would know that locking people in 15-minute cities, taking away the rights, taking away the unalienable rights to travel and unhindered. In other words, you ain't leaving this 15-minute city without all your correct paperwork. That's constitutionally repugnant. And Nathan knows, as well as I do, and anybody else who's up on the Constitution, if it's constitutionally repugnant and it gets implemented, that is treason.
Yeah. See, a lot of people, like on my lives, I say to them, we go on about common law, and they go, what is common law? And the best way I can describe common law is go watch Robin Hood with Russell Crowe in it, and there's a scene where he lifts a stone and there's his family's like motto, but he has a speech with the English king, at that time and says like every man, English man's home is his castle. But that time, that period is where these foundations were set for our
No,
laws.
actually, it wasn't where they was set, but that's where it's the time you're talking roughly about it. That is where they was prevalent to the point where
Yeah,
every man and woman knew them as par course of their life. You had
yeah,
to know
yeah.
them as par course of your life. Like you say, we all know the sayings. Every man's home is his castle. Things that we all know we have the right to protect our lives and stuff like that. We all know this, and this is all based
Yeah.
on common law. Like, I mean, a lot of people still to this day, when I would say common law, there's no such thing as common law. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been taken. No, it doesn't. Well, can you explain then murder contrary to common law, assault contrary to common law? I mean, fraud and deception contrary to common law. I mean, it's like you are prosecuted under common law. It's just they're not telling you.
They
Yeah,
use
And
it
this
in
is
the
the thing.
same courtrooms they used to deceive people.
Because basically, common law is the foundational principles that govern, well, basically protect the right to life and the future, basically. And it basically it's a set of basic rules that stops us killing each other. I mean, a lot of people will tell you that it's based on like the Bible, Ten Commandments. It actually is based on a lot older laws than that. I mean, in my research, I think it was 6,000 BC in Sumerian cuneiform texts that I found sovereignty was first mentioned. And the idea of sovereignty was first established the fact that everybody basically you are made in the image of God, so therefore you are above all.
Yeah.
No man
And that's
own another. This is all basically that's why slavery was abolished, because no man can own another.
And
This
that's
is
just the
what
earliest that's just the earliest documentation that we know about. I mean, we know
Yeah.
they don't tell
I
us
mean,
everything.
this was all, yeah, exactly. It's referenced in Sumerian cuneiform texts about 4,500, 6,000 BC. And you've got to remember, this was already an established civilization. So this principle must have been there some time before, because that was the foundation that civilization was built on. The fact that everybody is made in God's image and everybody is above all. Every man is accountable to himself. This is what people have got to understand. I mean, we all live by these principles to this day. The right to free speech, the right to say what you want, the right to offend. This is all under common law.
Well, Scotland can't no more with their hate speech. They can't say nank.
Yeah, well,
All the
this is
Scots
the
going to be walking around with tape over their mouths.
well, this
Did you
is the
see
thing
that,
that's not a law. That is an act of Parliament. So I mean,
Yeah.
again, I'll quote Houseries: acts and statutes can only be given the force of law by consent of the governed. So
Did you see
unless
the leader
the people.
the leader of the Scottish Commission of Indians, or Indian Commission or something like that, he's written a formal letter to address Hamza Yusuf's comments and his guidelines in that hate speech law about being unfair towards white people between the age of 18 and 35. And they've basically stepped in for people and gone, nah, this is wrong. And we want it taken to the Court of Human Rights, because that's not fair. Do you know what I mean? They basically singled out a particular demographic of people. So, you know, there are people out there that are willing to step into these positions and start to pick up where the ones that have failed before have left off. You know, I mean, people have got this sort of, what are we going to do if we take out the government? Who's going to run the country? And it's like, well, hold on a minute. There are people within the government that are good people. They are, you know, what do you call it? You call them conservative, but not Tory conservative. Mind, actually, you know, people with a brain on their head, and they're going to use that for the good of the people and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like properly conservative people, you know, that can go in and sort of take over the roles and reassume and bring in the common law rights and get rid of the commerce side of it and go through the legal cases. And it's going to be a 10-year long railroad ride, isn't it, really? Do you know what I mean?
it's probably longer than that. I mean, with Clause 61, you can pretty much void anything that's constitutionally repugnant overnight. It does actually literally become repugnant overnight. So it has to be stricken. Everything that's constitutionally repugnant or contrary to common law is void. It's stricken from the books on that very action. So as soon as we all stand up, all the things like the acts and the statutes that we get fines for and intrudes on our life, it all goes. It has to go by law. But you have to actually stand up and stand behind your rights for this to happen. Otherwise, you're consenting to what they're doing. This is the problem. This is where people do have to stand.
So that's the job for the truth seekers and the light bringers and the people that are like me and you, Andy, that speak up and won't be silenced, that want to continue regardless, even under the threat of being silenced by the government or even legal action if that law
Well, it's the thing.
comes over the border.
See, fear is their biggest weapon because they don't have the numbers. Fear is their biggest weapon.
Yeah.
If you are no longer afraid, because like we keep saying, if you read what the WF are saying, I mean, Klaus Schwab actively says because there's a thing called the World Economic Forum University. So Sunak, Macron, Sunak, Macron, all of them, literally, and Klaus Schwab has said himself, he boasts about it, it's like, we have infiltrated every institution around the world. So the people you're voting for, basically, they graduated from Klaus Schwab's university that taught them how to go out and put out the WF's willpower. So understand what you're dealing with.
If anyone is doubting,
said, though, that their agenda is behind schedule for 2030 because the public are being a bit of a pain in the arse. We're not complying.
Yeah, we're not consenting as quickly and as reliably as they first would like. So
if anyone's watching and doubting what we've said about the 15-minute cities that's actually happening, they're trialing it in Oxford area at the moment. If anyone's got any doubts about that being a conspiracy, go on the World Economic Forum's website and type in C40, because that's what they're calling it on there. They've had to change the name because people got too privy to the information too quickly, and it was starting to. So they've changed the name of it. It's now the C40 plan, but it's the same thing. It's 15-minute cities. It's locked down. You're not allowed to travel more than twice a year within anywhere outside of your 15-minute bubble. You'll only be allowed to use one return flight to another country every 3 years, because the air pollution would be too high carbon credit score for you. So you'd be going into a carbon credits-based system, which means if you have your lights on for too long, you've got to go without food once or something to level it out. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's top-down control, and it is utterly shambolic.
But when you read that, Andy, it also tells you that them are exempt from all of that.
Yeah. No,
it's only us peasants that's going to affect. It ain't going to affect the multi-billionaires. Only the peasants.
This is where consent comes in, because most people are stupid enough to think politics works and voting's going to get us away from tyranny. So you're going to go and consent. So you're going to have documentation that proves you consented to what they're doing before they've actually done it as well, because you give your consent and then they've got 4 years. Whatever they do in 4 years is in your name. So you've already consented to it. It's like writing a blank check and going, there you go, do what you want. Cane everything in my bank account. And people don't realise this.
Exactly.
If we was wrong in what we did, this is what we always tell people, Andy. If we was wrong in what we did back then, 2018, we arrested one of the best solicitors to ever grace this country in Khan, one of the best barristers that's ever been in this country with Keir Starmer. We put it on them. We arrested him. We put the arrests on them. It was all done. They backed it all. Now, don't you think if we'd done one little thing wrong, they wouldn't have had us jailed just like everybody else? We never had anything come back because they knew we did everything correctly and they could not touch us for what we did. And that's why we still walk around and we're still here today, because they can't do it, because if they did, you'd take them to the cleaners because we did nothing wrong.
On this live, it's been said over and over again, people are scared of losing everything. But what you've got to understand is whatever you lose in the pursuit of basically upholding the law, once it's said and done, you get all that back. You just got to make sure you've got proof. Yeah, make sure you've got proof of your home, make sure you've got proof of your property, anything that they take, make sure you keep the proof of that. And afterwards, it all has to be reinstated to you by law.
Yeah. Because don't forget, when they could have took us to court and everything, which I'm sure they really wanted to, but everything that we'd got in them documents would have had to come out in that court case, and they'd have been, because they'd have all been done, and they knew it. So it was easy to let it go and let us go and not arrest us, because we would have owned the right kind of worms or a hornet's nest, whichever one you want to call it, if they'd have arrested us. Because to arrest us, then we'd have had to go to trial. When we went to trial, everything that we stated in there and more, and what the police had put in, would have had to come out. So that's why we don't get done, because we're telling the truth. They all are treasonous scumbags.
My apologies to the people in the chat. My chat has only just come up. It's just been blank until now. Truth Crusader said, why has this not gone to court? Well, the Metropolitan Police backed our cases of, well, basically, the main charges are malfeasance, sedition, treason, and misprision of treason. The reason why it's not gone to court yet is because it needs the backing of the people. Without your consent and without your backing, then you've got few million people that are basically voting for these people, consenting to, like, for instance, there's more people that voted to have Khan in your London office than there are of you lot coming forward and saying you want him prosecuted for his crimes. So you've got to understand, the reason why this has not gone to court is because the people have not done their lawful duty to make sure these people are prosecuted.
Have you got
And
a
this is a
petition
problem.
or something?
Petitions don't work. Petitions were changed a number of years ago. All the petition will do, it's a parliamentary, basically a cul-de-sac, if you know what I mean. It is a parliament trick. Basically, what you do is they get you to spend all your time getting over 100,000 signatures, and the only obligation they have once you do that petition is to discuss it. They can discuss it for 10 seconds, then put the petition in the bin, and they go, "Well, do we really want to talk about this? No, this doesn't really matter."
So people just got to sign this Article 61. But how do they back you in getting Khan prosecuted? How do we?
Well, we actually released part. There's actually part one of our pack flying about. Basically what we're doing is we're building a common law manual. So it has all the processes, it will do as we build it. We're still editing a lot of it, but basically it's like you've got removal rights of access in part one. You've got the 3-step process to undergo diffidation, which is the Clause 61 process and the explanations in it. You've also got in there, which is proof that the case exists, and you've actually also got in there a letter to the police, but we still want people to do that. We're about to release one to CPS, but if you send that letter off, that is you basically stating, I want these people prosecuted. You have to put your name to it. I said we need as many people that are willing to vote to actually go, no, I want them prosecuted. But as long as there's people voting that's more than us, they're going to shelve it. But this is where if it is, there is no statute of limitations on treason. They can only shelve the case. There can only be one people's case of treason. We have that one case. So anybody else trying to bring a case of treason, basically for the people against Parliament, it won't work because you can only have one, and that's already been established. The thing is, people are not backing the only case we have.
So on that note, if you paid ULEZ even once this year and you didn't like doing it, then get involved with this lot, guys, and get him backed up and get him prosecuted because he's committed all kinds. They all have.
I talked to all the ULEZ guys, don't we, Jordan? Well, we're quite in with the ULEZ guys on TikTok, and
it's not just that. If you're unhappy about anything that's happened in the country this year, every politician of power in Parliament right now, every single one of them has knowingly and willingly committed treasonous acts in the last 4 or 5 years. They all have, every single one of them.
What we first started, most of us, like Jeremy, me and Gary, what we first started on is because a lot of people don't understand this. When we was taken into the European Union, this is how nefarious the government actually is, okay? When we went into the European Union, there had to be an audit, basically. So all public servants had to basically do a little report on how it would affect our rights, our country, our laws, everything. Basically the results of that, so the big report, which is the FCO 10/1048, 30/1048, sorry, which is the Foreign Correspondence Office document, that was hidden under the Official Secrecy Act for 30 years. Wow. So we could not, before it happened, find out the effects on our sovereignty that them taking us into the European Union had.
Yeah. And they all knew it, and that's why we've got every member of Parliament who's walked through them doors into that Parliament since Ted Heath has all been complicit in the treason. Every single one of them, because they've all knew.
Well, I have to chat a lot about a lot of our politicians. The world feels that a certain Mr. Blair should definitely be behind bars, and you know it goes across the world.
Well, Tony Blair had no right, and he didn't have the authority to change our treason laws. That's why we used our ancient treason laws, because they don't have a right to intercept them. So yes, Tony Blair is part of the case we're trying to build as well. So he will eventually, hopefully, be seeing charges. This is the whole point. This is why we have been shouting out since we've done it in 2018 to other groups, like with the ULEZ groups, any groups that can prove that what's happening is going against our unalienable rights, and i.e. our is constitutionally repugnant, i.e. like ULEZ taxes and stuff like that. Bring it, but give us your evidence. We'll put it in this case, and together, because no one group, us as a group, no one group is ever going to do this. No one person is going to do this. It's going to take all of us. So if we all pool our evidence and we put it into the People's Treason case, it builds that case bigger and bigger, wider and wider. So we then start capturing more and more MPs, more and more civil servants, and then we'll get to the point where civil servants will be too scared to act in the manner they have before, because they will be prosecuted for it. But this is how we do it. This is how you do it by law.
I'm just thinking now, Andy, April 23rd, St George's Day, there's a big thing going off in London. Now, I know, obviously, London's not the place to go if you want to do anything real and make any positive change. It's just a place where people go when they're angry and they want to shout at something. But when we go down there and speak to all these angry people, we might just say to them, you know, look, instead of shouting, do something. Do something real. Right? These three forms, send them off and meet on this day at this place, and we will take our country back by force. We will become the Baron's Army.
And that's exactly it. We come the balance. I mean, most people haven't actually read Clause 61. If you read it, it's very telling. There's a part that actually says we can do what we want, save hurting those of the royal family. So the only ones we are not allowed to cause harm to in the pursuit of undoing this tyranny and treason is the royal family. So this is where most judges, most civil servants, most MPs really, really want to start looking at their history, because there's been times in history where you've had justice of the peace, you've had judges, you've had MPs, literally pulled out the house and hung from lampposts. I'm not suggesting that's what we should do, but I'm saying in law we do actually have that right, and this is what a lot of people don't realise.
Oh God, you're scratching my ego at the moment. I can picture myself now.
It's all in the words, lawful rebellion, isn't it?
We charge number 10.
If you think about it,
Army.
Andy,
you don't charge. This is the thing. Parliament is a dead.
Dragons involved, mate. In my story, there'll be dragons, giants.
Griffins, you mean? Magic, you know what I mean? It's like,
I was just going to say, Andy's gone from Article 61 to building gallows already.
King Arthur 2.0. You know? But this is the thing. But this is the thing. We have more power than people realise, and once you understand that, I mean, like, freedom is understanding your power and your authority over yourself, as well as society. And the thing, we make society, and this is what people don't get. Our society will be as good as the laws we uphold. So do you really want to continue to uphold the acts and statutes, which aren't actually laws, that they are creating, which is destroying our society? Or do you want to go back to upholding the laws that kept peace in our society, that meant our constables didn't have to walk the streets armed?
And I want to
that's a problem. That's a problem these elites don't realise, that they think they're all safe and everything from it now, because at the moment we're under this maritime law. But what they don't realise is, under common law, which we're all standing under, everybody is equal in the law, and they cannot just go around doing what they want. If they've committed treason and lost harm and injury against another living man or woman, they've got to pay for it, and they will pay for it. And this is what you've got to drum into people. Stop listening to them and their acts and statutes and their laws, and stand under your constitution. Learn your rights, learn your unalienable rights, and uphold them. That's all you got to do, and lose the fear.
Yeah. You see, I got into an interesting.
We say I just want to. Sorry, Jordan. When we say we mean every single British person, no matter colour, creed, religion.
Exactly.
Whatever. If you are in this country right now, and you are looking at your children and thinking your future's not very bright, then it's you we're talking to, okay? Don't get it twisted. We're talking to everyone.
Every single man, woman, and child.
Exactly. This is not a racist thing. This is not a race thing. If you're born and bred in England, in Britain, you're entitled to go on 61. It doesn't matter, you know. what colour, creed, or religion you are. You're
I'm not going to get
British.
it. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but under our constitution, actually have what you call denizen laws. That's basically
Yeah.
the people who come to our shores, like merchants and other people, and how that they're protected under our laws. So they're allowed. For instance, the Commonwealth has the right to 61 because the Queen
Yeah.
is sovereign over them lands, and this is what people got to get. The whole Commonwealth can stand up over this, under this, and most of them are. We speak to many people in different countries, but the problem is a lot of people don't bother to do the research. Like I said, most
Australia
of it
and New Zealand are taking quite a stand now. I've spoke to people from over there, group chat, especially one woman in particular from New Zealand. She said it's a sight to behold over there now. They're all following that Ricardo Bossi, and he's talking about how they're going to take it back to the constitution. And all these plans that have been going on, the global military alliance in the background, carrying out operations through lockdown that have exposed child trafficking rings on a global scale and stuff. So there's a lot to come out, but we need to still do our part. Everyone thinks the military doing this and it's all going to be dealt with. The military won't get involved in our constitution. They won't get involved in taking our
they can't.
They
can't. We're not even allowed martial law in our lands. Other countries can, but we're not.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. This is where people got to understand our military. They get their oath from 61.
Yeah.
So Clause 61 of Magna Carta is where their oath originates from. So so they are not allowed to call martial law. Military cannot have any authority over us in peacetime.
Exactly. So we need to do it ourselves, and it's on us, the people, to bring the country back to
And that's why you.
And that's a nail on the head, Jordan. That is a nail on the head. We've got to do it ourselves. The law states we have to do it ourselves. It's like you say, what's happened is what we're seeing now, like you said, we've got to start passing on to future generations the knowledge of this and what we need to keep, because this has happened over the last 800 years. It's happened numerous times. They get about 2 or 3 generations in, then they start to remove these rights and the knowledge of these rights. And then we have to then come about and re-establish them. But it has to get to the point of near enough revolution to re-establish them. And we're finding we're at that point now. We have to re-establish our laws and our rights so that we can actually pass them on to future generations. And it's actually a duty of ours to each generation to keep it going. And that's something we seem to lack. We've got this easy life where it's a case of, well, we just sign this and someone else will do it. If I just pay this, someone else will do it. That's not how life works. I'm sorry.
What people have got to understand is there's no such thing now as any sovereign countries at this moment in time. There's sovereign people, but not sovereign countries, because what's happened is they've all been took over by stealth by corporations. Australia, New Zealand, us, America, everywhere you look, they're all registered corporations and they're all businesses. And that's what you've got to dismantle, those businesses, and get the countries back for the people. That's what we've got to do. And it's that simple.
Exactly that. So we've got a lot of work to do. I thought we'd done a lot of it, but we haven't even scratched the surface.
Well, but like I said before, when we first started this, it's like me and Jeremy was talking about this before you got come in. It's like there used to be like town criers, basically like Clause 61. When Clause 61 was invoked in 2001, what would have normally happened is there would have been town criers, or there would have been a horseman sent out to go to town, and he would read 61 out to the people. And this is what people got to understand. This is not a hard process. So stop thinking of the legal side that you've got to do all this, but you don't. You've got to do 3 bits of paperwork and then you act within law, because your actions are lawful from then on, as long as you stay within the law. But this is what people got to realise. Clause 61 is different from any other clause in Magna Carta and its sister document, which is Carta de Foresta. That was done in 1217. That's a different story. That's a whole different story. I ain't going to get into that. But Clause 61 is written in plain English, because at the time when this was actually established, and for up till literally the 20th century, that 95% of the world was illiterate. So they couldn't read and write. So it was designed so somebody could go on horseback, go in a town, call everyone to the town centre, read this document out, and because it's in plain English, you'll understand. It's like, it is now your duty to distress and distrain the crowd. You are to remove all their property and their buildings until they actually do as they're told, until they actually start doing their job properly. That's what Clause 61 states. It's like it states what you're allowed to do, i.e. withhold tax. It's like you don't have to pay these people money no more because they're acting criminally. You don't pay criminals money. You take it away, or you're funding crime. This is what
I had
people
an
understand.
interesting idea. I thought about doing maybe 100 different types of videos, basically just doing that, reading out Article 61, and just send them out to different people. Just have them post all over the place, different social media profiles, and just start bringing people's eye to it, because you're going to need a hook to start with. You know, if people hear it played out and spoken out loud in plain English, it's undeniable. They can't argue with what they've just heard. Do you know what I mean? Then all they got to do is look at it and find Google, ask God, we call it. Ask God, Google in Magna Carta, Article 61, see it's real. Now you're hooked. Now you're interested. You know, I didn't realise we had the right to go in and take out all of our government members and remove them from office and hang them from the rafters if we're in a state of
London Bridge.
Know, exactly. So we've been in a state of treason for decades. You know, and you guys have been fighting this uphill battle with ice skates on, because they try and close you down. The minute you try and move with anything, they'll just shut it down, won't they? They'll, you know, I mean, I'm even surprised that your YouTube channel is still up and running, to be honest.
This is my last YouTube channel I have, and I've said if this one goes down, I'm not doing another one.
Yeah,
it's like, I've had many profiles on social media taken. I've had a few YouTubes taken now, so that's why we're moving to the radio, because we control that. So
we're gonna have to switch details definitely, because we've got to make this happen. You know, and you guys. You know, you need the support, you need the backing to make it happen and make it real. You know, you're a decade into something that you're all committed to and passionate about, and we're equally as passionate. We just don't know where to go. So educate us.
This is the thing.
Nathan, hit the nail on the head. Nathan, you hit the nail on the head a few times tonight, and that is we are governed by consent. So basically, they work for us. The government and that is there to work for us, and people have lost the plot and think you've got to go and have a jab or you can't work. You've got to go and do this or you can't have this. And the people have been suckered in now to think that we've got to do what the government says. And it's the other way around. And the sooner we realise that and get it back to how that is, that'll be another big step to getting it back. Just stop saying no to these people. Just because they say something, it doesn't mean it's lawful. It might be legal, but it's not law. Just because something's legal, it doesn't mean it's lawful. You've got to start questioning everything.
I mean, like I said, a lot of people still to this day are saying that the Magna Carta has been proven to be void or it doesn't work. I mean, most of these people were the people that thought they could use Magna Carta to keep their shop open or something, or not pay their mortgage during the pandemic. It's not used for that. And not be funny, even if you use Magna Carta, you need to know how to reference it properly. Many people don't bother learning, so it just fails. You can't. It's like we've had it many times since we've been doing it. And Gary, you'll back me up on this. The amount of people that sort of learn a bit about common law and think all you have to do is go, I stand under common law, and think nobody can touch you. That's not how it works. You need to, if you don't know your rights, you have none. So learn your rights.
You look at last year now when we was talking to the Rangers and that, when we was doing the long march to freedom. You can't stop here, but majority of them will let us stay. Because once we talked to them and sat them down and chatted to them, they understood what we were saying. And then we got the right to do it. And okay, then, as long as you've gone first thing in the morning and you don't leave a mess, you can stay. But, you know, a lot of people don't realise you're having these rights taken away from you. If you don't know what you're talking about, they're just coming and moving you on.
What Gary is referring to is last year, us three embarked on a walk across the south of the country to prove our rights and to prove that we still have the right of way, basically. So we stayed in a lot of country manor parks and things like that, to the point we had some of the custodians, from the National Trust that are there to manage the forest. They would say we couldn't do certain things. One point, I was talking to one of them and I was standing next to a board that had about commoners' rights, the right for a commoner to come and stay, get materials and things like that. And I was standing next to them. So we've not got these rights. No, who says? The National Trust. And the thing is, what people don't understand is the National Trust are there just to maintain these properties. They don't own our forests. They don't own anything. Like I said, it's like Runnymede. When we went to Runnymede, we actually took Runnymede. I've actually got a letter from the National Trust asking us nicely if we'd give the land back.
And there was only two lots of tents there. Can you imagine if we'd done that by times 200,000?
Yeah. Wow.
People have definitely got to start waking up and learning their rights. And I know it was like I can hear some people now going, "Oh my God, here we go, but you've proved it. I know some other people that have proved it. If we could get just the ball rolling, like, and get 10% of the country interested, then that 10% will grow in time. Like,
10% is enough. 10% is enough.
Yeah, 5%
is enough. 5% is enough.
Yeah.
There's never been any rebellion or revolution that technically went over about 15% of the country that was active in it. So understand them numbers. You understand it's always the minority that acts lawfully, because when a minority, so basically if there's enough of us that stand up under 61 to basically outnumber the police, the military, the judiciary, then it doesn't matter about the rest because they're acting criminally. So what they do no longer matters. The only thing that matters is those acting lawfully, because it sets everything else aside.
What people also need to understand is that never in history has people been able to vote their way out of tyranny and corruption and oppression. Never been done.
It
My
doesn't even
favourite
make
saying,
sense.
you can't
does it?
vote your way out of this. I get so many people vote for Reform UK. They're going to change the country.
It's funny. It's funny you say
Labour.
Yeah, but it's funny you say about reform. So, and this is the question I ask people. It's like, for a start, it's like you say, you've never been able to vote yourself out of tyranny. In fact, voting is actually what got us here. You consent into what they want to do is got us here. So it's like, and I say this. So you want to vote for reform?
Well,
you think it's going to change it? You say, like people keep saying, "Oh, we vote for reform; they're going to change everything." Like, so you're going to basically vote for a party made up of members of the two other parties you don't like, and you think they're all of a sudden going to do the right thing. I mean, we're talking about the same people that are responsible. If you look at what's happening to us, their names are on the list of the people. So reform has the very people in it that have created this situation. And you think all of a sudden they're going to undo what they've got paid for and what they're going to get paid for.
They're
The way I
controlled
look at
opposition.
reform, though, I kind of say, like, well, the way I look at reform, to be devil's advocate here, if it, like the example I give, if you're hanging around with one group of friends, and then that group of friends starts going down a path you really don't want to go to, if you then leave that group of friends and start hanging around with another group that are on a path that you agree with, you know, where's the betrayal there? If, like, all these people looking at their parties and going, oh no, this ain't right, and we're going to form a party and try and move forward the right way, you know, is that such a bad thing?
I mean, it's like you said earlier about people going, oh well, we don't know. It's like there is proof that what we state is factually true. I said we have the only treason case that's been brought against members of Parliament since pretty much Cromwell times, really, technically speaking. And this is and there's a crime reference number to prove that. So, and considering Magna Carta 1215, not 1297, 1215 is our foundation document for them charges. It proves 1215 because I've proven Magna Carta all the way up. I mean, as little as early back as 2015 and 1998, it was actually used to win cases in American here. An MP actually used Magna Carta 1215 to protect himself. But yeah, apparently it's not okay if we use it. So if we want to use it, it doesn't exist. If the MPs want to use it, it's okay. But this is what people got to understand. If you want proof, the proof's in that case. So the very fact that the Metropolitan Police backed our case to CPS, citing evidence of crimes proven, and the fact the Bill of Rights, Magna Carta, and a couple of other documents are the foundation that actually proves it's treason, then that there proves it.
Well,
I said I've got a court order where because I can actually cite Magna Carta and with sources and prove where it's upheld. I've got a court order where Magna Carta was not rebutted. The judge actually gave the Bill of Rights and Magna Carta its own section in the court order.
Well, I don't know how many people are watching or listening right now, but I'll tell you something right now. I want to be one of the 500,000 people that get this country back, so I'm going to be doing it.
I mean, unfortunately, it's going to mean sacrifice. You're going to have to do what we did last year. You're going to have to get a tent, get a bit of money saved up so you can get supplies, and we're going to have to stay in one place long enough to organise. So don't try and organise outside, because if you organise on social media or anything like that, it'll be stopped. Once we are all in one place, they cannot stop us organising because we'll be doing it lawfully. But this is the thing. Everyone seems to think you're going to London. I'll tell you what, if we could have, say, 500,000 people on social media go, right, tomorrow we're going to London and we're going to do this, I can assure you, and they've already done this with some protests, they will stop trains, they will stop coaches, they will stop lots of things. So you will never get the numbers inside London. But I will say this, Runnymede is the birthplace of the rule of law.
Why would you want to go to a part of the UK that's not a part of the UK to take the UK back for the people? That's what gets me.
Exactly.
Because London
Well, this
City is not even part of the UK jurisdiction. It's
That's true. Well, you've got Greater London,
technically
you've
under
got the
Crown,
City of
isn't
London.
it? Yeah,
Well,
City
you've
of
got
London.
you've got Greater London and you've got the City of London. City of London, i.e. the square mile, that is a state within a state. Basically, that's the same as Washington DC and the Vatican. Basically, this is why it's got its own sovereignty, and Bill of Rights actually gives it that sovereignty.
The three corners.
And that's actually saying that. That's another thing that helped me prove 1215 in court, because there is only 2 references that allowed basically the City of London to have sovereignty. It started in Magna Carta. It was given its sovereignty within Magna Carta 1215, and then 1215 was relied on with a Bill of Rights to give it its sovereignty again. So for all those saying it doesn't exist, look at who is telling you it doesn't exist. The government, the very people that have to abide by it, are telling you, oh no, we don't have to abide by it because it doesn't exist. Who says?
It does exist. It definitely does.
Magna Carta 1215 is actually a peace treaty between the Crown and the people. Parliament has no say in it. A third party can't come into a contract afterwards and then dictate. It doesn't work like that. And it's a peace treaty, so it has to be upheld. It has to be obeyed. Otherwise, there is no peace in the realm.
Can we buy a book or something with all this? Like Magna Carta?
They're putting together.
Is that what you're doing? You're putting all that together, yeah?
Yeah, what it is I've got quite a big substantial library of basically you've got things like Blackstone, Sir Edward Coke, Dicey. I'd say more his later stuff, because his earlier stuff you can blatantly tell he's basically went through his university and got indoctrinated. But as he gets to about 40, even Dicey changes his mind about sovereignty and the people and the crown. But yeah, I've read a lot of law books, a lot of what we call grandfathers of law. How's Laws of England has a lot of this in. You just need to know how to, because it's a reference book. It's not a book you read. But yeah, basically it's over the years. It's not just me and there's a few people from other groups that as well. There's been, I would say, about 20 of us technically constitutionalists have been dedicated within a few movements, and even some SOs that have been dedicated to actually addressing this. There's a lot of people that have kind of plagiarized the stuff that we have done as a group, like I said, and they run with it. They hear something, and then all of a sudden, like I said, if you talk to me, I can tell you the sources where I actually get my reasoning from, because I say, well, you'll find that here, you'll find that there. If you speak to most people who talk about the Constitution or Magna Carta or common law, if you say, where's your source? They'll go, go and do your research. It's like, well, I'll tell you where to read, and then you'll read the exact thing as me. So, I mean, this is, you've got to read some boring books, unfortunately, if you really want to educate yourself. But there is, like I said, there is a way where we can simplify this, and it can be done. But you need to have them references, because you need. If you don't have the sources,
do it on audio. Do an audio.
Article 61 is actually simple enough, though. It's a very short procedure.
But this is actually it. You do not need a degree in law or to know too much about law to do 61. In fact, you don't need anything. You just need to obey 61
and be sovereign.
Yeah.
Sovereign, yeah. And
the problem is convincing people. And relaying that information back to them in a way they can understand and relate to. That's where you guys have been struggling for years, because nobody's paid attention to. I mean, I'm hearing this now, and I'm sitting there thinking, how have you not got 500,000 people by now? I know.
Don't get me wrong.
I know. Don't get me wrong. Who would jump at this tomorrow.
I mean, when we was all back in the White Pen Dragons, when we started with them, we did have mass amount of numbers. But there was a lot that went on. There was a lot of infiltration. There was a lot. Basically, the powers that be shut a lot of what we was doing down. Because you got to remember, when we done that, when we done the Fabian arrest in the Craig building, Sadiq Khan, Keir Starmer, Kate Green, and that, we never, when we went into that building, we never knew that Sky News was there, BBC. We didn't know any of them was there. What it looked like to us, and we thought, was they was just recording their meeting. And as soon as we stood up, Sky News, everything, and it was like, literally, we kind of done quite well, because that was even publicised in the Tokyo Gazette. Now, a lot of people won't understand this, but you have to do something very, very amazing to get published in the Tokyo Gazette, because they only publish their own crap. So for them to publish something that happened across the world, going, hang on a minute, they've just stood up and done this. The government have just been held to account. That should show it in itself. I mean, it was. A lot of people would have seen it, because they actually physically stop programs to, what they do with the bulletins. It's like they just stop the program and say, this just happened. That actually happened. As we was doing it, I had my friends message me going, oh, you legend. And I'm still doing it. I'm like, what? And it's like, then we see it all. It was just like Sky News here, BBC News. That was like,
Well,
what?
I had my wife, if you remember, Nathan, ring me from Belarus and said, "What the effing hell are you doing?"
There's the thing. It's like
Well,
we didn't know it was going to be as big
supposed
as it
to come
was.
over for a visit. I come for a visit and ended up getting mixed up with that lot.
So I was on TikTok Live last week. I know that there's probably a couple of people because I have told them about it and they said they were going to watch it. I was talking, and you'd probably be aware, I was talking to a gentleman. He was a Muslim guy. It was an amicable conversation, but he was saying the problem you guys have got is that you've got no constitution. And I argued till I was blue in the face with him. We've got a constitution, just no one knows about it. You know, and that's what we need to do. We need to make people aware of that, because if they know, like you said, if they know their rights, it's all a lot easier to understand from there on.
Well, put it this way, our constitution is made up of within our constitution it has, for instance, our ancient customs. If people want to know how powerful these are, I went in family court 2 years ago, and I raised the first point of law in about 25 years in the family court, and I used our ancient customs. Them ancient customs are 4,500 years old, and they was upheld in family court.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to need to learn a lot from you. We're definitely going to need, and you guys.
But this is a difference. We actually go into court. Like I said, we've actually CMW have made a point of going to court and putting this to the system and proving it. Many people talk about it, but ask me, it's like, have you put this to a court? Have you got proof? Have you actually submitted this? Because a lot of people, it's like we've made mistakes in the past, and you learn by the mistakes. I mean, just because you may got the process wrong or you may get a bit of information wrong doesn't mean it's void. What you've got to do is go back to the drawing board like we have a few times and go, right, what did we do wrong? And then change that, then go back and do it again. But I said we've had an amazing amount of success in court. It's like you heard from basically, I ain't gonna name him, but the man who put you in contact with us, he's like he said earlier, he's been in court and watched us act in court.
Yeah.
He's seen what can be done when somebody's aware of it.
I've seen a couple of your videos, and I'm impressed. I mean, you know, I wouldn't know where to start with doing something like that. And
well, I'm the only one I know, who wasn't even in this country. I was in Belarus, where I was renting my house out to a foreign guy, and I'm the only one I know who give my solicitor instructions, because a solicitor always works for you. Always remember that. And if you want a solicitor to act a certain way or anything like that, they have to act that way because you're paying the wages. Whether they think it's right or not, they have to do as they're told. They have took that contract on from you to act on your behalf, not what they think. And I done my affidavit of truth, and I sent it to Nathan, and I said, this is what I'm going to be putting in, Nathan. And he looked over it and he went, yeah, that looks good enough to me. And I'll give it to the solicitor. I emailed it to her. I said, this is how I want you to act tomorrow in the court. And she rung me up and I said, I can't give it all this down. I said, listen, I'm paying for your time. That's exactly what I want you to give to the judge, and that's what I want you to do. Okay, it's your funeral, basically. That's what he was saying to me.
It's your money if you want to waste it.
Yeah. The next day, he rings me up, excited already. Gary, we've got your house. We've got him out 15. It took 15 minutes to get him out. I was expecting adjournments and this, that, and the other. I went, no, because I know what unalienable rights are. I know what the Constitution is, and I know he can't violate my unalienable rights, which he has done. He's caused me loss, harm, and injury because he stopped paying the rent and the mortgage. And that's how he's got to go, as simple as. And
to put that into context, what Gary's saying when he got his house back is it usually takes a minimum between 2 and 4 years for a landlord to basically get possession of a house back. Gary used common law and his unalienable rights, and the judge read his document and within 15 minutes ruled for him to have his house back. It took 15 minutes doing it under the law. It takes 2 to 4 years doing it under their legal system.
Yeah.
Because it's all about this. If you don't know the law, they'll have you backwards and forwards because they want to keep having you back, getting more of this. I said, no, I want it done that way. That's what I want. If I lose, it's my money.
Yeah, they'll bleed you dry otherwise, wouldn't they?
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. It's all about commerce. It's all about money. It's all about basically draining the finances.
Yeah.
Same with Big Pharma, isn't it? No healthy person is a money-making system, is it? So
Yeah.
why would you want a population of healthy people? That puts Big Pharma out of
Yeah.
business.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, this is where learning the history about what has happened to us and how these laws come about and how they're contrary to our laws and things is also things. I mean, usually I haven't tried to tonight. I mean, Jeremy and Gary about this. Usually I try and give a massive long history lesson so everybody knows exactly how this happened. But I'm trying not to tonight so I don't roll on. But it's like,
Well, no, I mean, it's been a good podcast because we already sort of, well, I certainly already sort of know what you guys are about and what you guys have been doing for a little while. I've been speaking to obviously our friend that we've got in common for a couple of weeks now about the whole thing, because I've sort of spoke to him about what I want to do and what we were thinking of doing, myself and Andy, and I believe other parties as well that are keen to get involved in it. And I spoke to a gentleman today. He messaged me while I was on TikTok. I just posted a video and he thought, well, I'll catch him quickly while I know he's online. And he's jumped on me and he's gone, can I call you quick? So I gave him my phone number and he's called me. And he's been saying pretty much the same sort of stuff as you guys. You know, you just need to know where you stand. You need to know your rights. You need to know what you're allowed to do, what you're allowed to say, how you're allowed to act. And the minute you understand them, you can't really set a foot wrong. You can make mistakes, but you can't really set a foot wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
because you're doing it in honor. You're not trying to be deceptive. You're acting in honor. So you're being honorable in the fact you're trying to uphold your rights. So there is no criminal intent, if you get what I mean.
Exactly.
And therefore, like you say, you can't do wrong. But this is the thing. We are at the point where we haven't got time to educate the country on your rights and things fully. People have got to understand clause 61. You do not need to have a massive knowledge of law to do clause 61. You just need to know the government are tyrannous. They are doing wrong and we have to stop them. Once you understand that fundamental, just basic aspect, you can then go and act. You don't need
You're not
to
going to
have
fund it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, but people have got to understand we have a duty to actually learn our rights and learn the common law and learn this and then start teaching our younger generations this. And that is down to us. The government and the Crown, it's not their job to uphold our rights. This is what a lot of people get mistaken. Basically, you are asking your boss to uphold something that may make his business, I don't know, have to pay out money. Like I said, look at it like an employer situation, because that's how they're looking at it, because we're under tyranny. So we are under their boot. They are not going to do anything that benefits us and not them. They work for a corporation, so they are going to do whatever it basically benefits that corporation. And our rights and having to abide by what the laws we say doesn't benefit them. It benefits us. So you've got to understand what benefits us doesn't benefit them. What benefits them does not benefit us. So when you're talking about voting, things like that doesn't benefit us. Us giving consent to what they want to do benefits them. I'll say this. I've done a lot of research. There has not been one manifesto in the history of politics or voting in English politics anyway. Not one manifesto has ever been kept up to. Not one.
Not one.
So the very premise, basically, what happens is you vote these people in. Well, you vote a party in. You vote the party in based on they're going to go right. We're going to do this for you. And then when they get power, they go, well, sod that. We're in now. Can't do nothing. You've already given me your consent. And this is what you got to realise. Once they're in Parliament, you've gave them your consent. You can't. You mean unless you know how to remove that consent, and that is diffidasio. It's removing your consent, your fealty, your allegiance to the Crown. Once you do that, they haven't got the power. But unless you know that, you're doomed to just get yourself deeper and deeper into the net, as it were. It is a spider's web, and you get caught a lot with a lot of things.
Yeah. Definitely. Listen,
basically, the adage "keep it simple, stupid" is what most people got to listen to. Just keep it simple, and you won't go wrong.
I think that's about all I've got time for tonight, guys. I'm going to have to get family duties to get to. But
same here. So what we do is wrap it there. If you gents don't mind, we'll jump on again at some point soon. And then
just send me an invite. I'm definitely going to get involved in this, man. My brain is down 1,000 miles an hour at the moment. At the moment, I'm trying to pick the colour from a shield. for this army. I want one little logo to go for. I've got a lot going on at the moment, but yeah,
Coat of armour.
definitely.
What I do,
I will like to add one thing, okay? A lot of people reference, and most people who call themselves, if a constitution sits there and says we have the right to bear arms, walk away from that man because he doesn't know, right? The English constitution, okay, the American constitution says the right to bear arms, okay? That is a narrow version. Yeah, that is a narrow version of ours. The English version is it is your duty by law to be proficient in arms to protect the realm. Okay, so it is your duty to not only practice with a weapon every day, but be capable of using that weapon to defend the realm from basic. And this is where you get the foreign and domestic. So anybody attacking the realm from foreign or domestic. So whether it be the crown, I look at the Roundheads and the Cavaliers in Cromwell's time. It is our duty. We don't have a choice. We are by law meant to be practicing with weapons to our means, whether that be a bow, a sword, or a gun. But to your means, you're meant to practice with that weapon so you can be proficient to stand up and defend the realm and defend the people. Ours is actually more broader than the Americans. The Americans basically took our. This is another reason why we do not want our constitution codified. Okay, because the Americans basically took our constitution, they codified it, which means, well, codified actually in the legal way is to hide. So they've hid most of our constitution within a smaller constitution. Yeah, they've manipulated our constitution to narrow it. So they literally, we've got rights that are here. The Americans have now narrowed their rights because they have the right to bear arms. Yeah. But we actually have a duty. By law, we have to be using weapons. We have to practice weapons.
In the 1600s, we were the practice run. America was the finalized product. Yeah. You know, they used everything, like all of our stuff. I mean, we created a back law dictionary for them to create their laws and trap their own civilians. Do you know what I mean? We basically wrote the book on it and then went, there you go, that's how you do it. And they've gone and done the same thing, but they've, like you say, narrowed it down to give even less rights, really, to their own people. You know?
Yeah, and if you look at it like that, they've also messed it up a lot quicker than our constitution because it only took them 200 years.
Yeah, exactly. They've not been around that long.
It took us 800 years to get our foundational documents sorted.
Exactly.
They haven't just screwed the pooch on America. They've screwed the pooch on the whole Western world, haven't they? Really?
They have really, yeah.
This is the difference between the constitutions. I mean, the English Constitution, it's not the British Constitution, it's the English Constitution. If you're talking about the British Constitution, you're talking about the British Constitution is the same as the European Union Constitution, the WEF Constitution. You want the English Constitution because the English Constitution was built by actions of the people over 800 years. So it's the people enacting it, not a group of people that form a government and then create a constitution. The people have built our constitution by fighting against tyranny and treason and oppression for nearly 1,000 years.
This is how I always try and put it across. You've got underlay in a room, and then you've got carpet. Somebody comes and puts the carpet on top of the underlay. Now, the underlay is our constitution. And they've come along and they've put carpet on the top, which is maritime law. If you lift that carpet up, your constitution hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's just you've got to remove the maritime law to get back to the original constitution that's been there for thousands of years.
We were given the TV and dumbed down. I was watching these tenders. I forgot about the constitution.
Yeah. And basically, that's as simple as it is. The Constitution will always be there.
Yeah, the Constitution is a solution, as we keep saying that for many years. Right, we're going to wrap up there. If you gents want to come on again, like I said, what we do is we usually do these open panels for people to just throw questions because there doesn't seem to be many people that actually do this that can just take questions and answer in real time. A lot of people go and research, or I'll get back to you in 3 weeks. We've done this for so long now. We know the answers because we've done this time and time again. So any question is welcome. And please understand, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Only a stupid person for not gaining the knowledge they needed by asking that question. Never any such thing as a stupid question.
TikTok live. If you used to get on a TikTok live with me and Jordan, like the questions would come flowing.
Well, yeah, sort it out, and we'll sort it out. We'll come on. I don't mind.
Yeah, but download TikTok. Let us know. We'll set all that up. But yeah.
Oh man, I did have a really good question as well, but where I've held it back and I've held it back and I've held it back, and now it's just gone. And it was a really good one as well because it was quite relevant to what's going on today.
I bet you've got loads, mate, to be honest.
I'll save it for next time. It's all good. I'm going to
Did you get that information, Nate? I sent you.
Yeah. What do is we're going to do a live tomorrow about that thing.
Me and Nate, we're going to do a live tomorrow. It's going to be an explosive one with information I've just come across. Too long to have done tonight, but it's shocking what they've got planned. And I think we've got ahead of the game so we can put it out before it gets too bad to warn people of what's going on. But that'll be tomorrow night anyway. But
we'll do then. We'll wrap up, gents. Again, thank you for coming on, and definitely we'll come on TikTok and that lot, and definitely have you on again. So we'll do that. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining in. Sorry if we didn't get any questions. I didn't actually have the chat for it while it was just blank for me.
Well, I ain't got the chat. I've only got my phone, so I ain't got the chat.
But right, so we'll leave it there.
Half just went like that, didn't it? It's just an hour and a half gone. It's like wow, you know. But brilliant. It's been great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I will get our mutual friend to send my contact details over to you, Nathan.
Yeah.
And please, anybody watching, watch the Fabian arrest. Watch what we actually did. That was ageless. So imagine if we could do that en masse. Yeah. And we can. We've already worked out the basically the due process of it all and how to do it. We just need other people to learn it and then do it.
Like you said, not only can we, but we should be. We have to.
We have no choice.
I think we need to aim our sights more on we will be.
Yeah, we will be. Yeah. That's one of them.
Right.
Thank you, gents, and until next time. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank you.
Stay safe, guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. As always.
Night all.